Hi everyone, and thank you for being on my channel, and welcome to another pick a card reading with the subject messages from your higher self but also from your shadow. So in this reading I will make an attempt to deliver a message both from your superconscious, the higher self as they say, but also from your shadow as in the unconscious or the Lilith, as we like to call it in astrology. Also, I have chosen a special theme where instead of numbers, you are invited to choose between 3 different types of lanterns. The lantern being the symbolism of the inner light, of the divine light, our divine sparks that can just light up our being, even in the darkest of times, both from within, first of all, and then of course we can project our light onto wherever we need more clarity. Thus the symbolism of the lantern, and of course also the symbolism of the Hermit Tarot card, because one way or another all of us embody the Hermit. All of us are seeking our own individual ways, the meaning of life, the meaning of existence, shedding light on things which truly spark our curiosity, but more importantly, true knowledge begins with knowledge of the self. As it was written in the Temple of Delphi, an ancient Greek oracle, that know thyself first of all, because everything, true knowledge begins from there. So the instructions for this pick a card are the same as always. Just choose one of the lanterns which basically attracts your intuitive senses the most, and then just jump straight to the interpretation of the pile chosen by you. Timestamps can be found in the description of the video and also in the comments down below. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for all of your support and your kindness. If you'd like to help me keep my channel up, you can donate on the PayPal link in the description below. Now let's begin the interpretations of the cards for the 3 lanterns. Hello everyone who was attracted to the first lantern. The first spread of cards is message from your higher self, and the bottom set of cards are messages from your shadow. So your higher self speaks through the 4 of Wands, the High Priestess reversed, the 9 of Cups, and all of this is clarified by the Justice reversed. Now, one of the main messages that I am receiving through these cards, especially that 4 of Wands, is that almost like this lifetime, this incarnation for you personally, is split into 2 eras, 2 major cycles, and it's almost like these 2 cycles are like totally different lives, totally different realities, totally different karmic themes even. So basically how your life was during your childhood, adolescence, and even as you entered maturity, had a certain predominant life mission which really binded you, and it binded all of your choices. And I do believe that you have completed that. You have basically obtained what you came here to do. And perhaps not so long ago, the next cycle, the second phase, a new life began for you, but you might be still a little bit in the transition period between these 2. Now the first cycle may have been a really tough one, because this 4 of Wands suggests that, first of all, you have been born with an ancestral wound, something that has been running through your family tree, going back even to the grandparents of your grandparents, if that makes sense. And for your family, at least for your maternal side, because I do believe that this is a very feminine energy, so your mom, grandma, carried these ancestral wounds and this karmic pattern most of all. And I am not really sure if you can ask anyone in your family or you have records or any info that you can get. But this karmic pattern was created going back to 4 generations where your predecessors might have lived through a really, really tough, challenging, almost cruel times when there was war in the world, when there was a lot of challenges socially, even economically. Basically, what I'm trying to say here, society was really, really unfair. It was almost like rich and the poor, the nobles and those who had noble blood and the commoners. Your ancestors might have also lived in a rural area where certain customs and traditions governed how things were, certain choices and decisions, and of course marriages and matters of love and partnerships. So on one hand, this ancestral trauma is due to survival basically, because it was really, really tough to survive. It was really tough to provide for your family. This is where you just had to survive. This is where you had absolutely no guarantee that you're gonna see the light of day tomorrow. So it was really, really tough. And at the same time, because of the inequality, it was like some people had almost everything. They had great security, safety, abundance, etc. And other people just really, really struggled. And those who struggled were used and abused by the rich, the nobles, etc. So this left a really strong karmic imprint on the maternal line of your family, which manifests mostly in an emotional way, where you find it really, really hard to expose your vulnerability, your emotions, basically your loving side. It is almost like without even wanting it or willing it or even knowing it, you're in a state of readiness, you're in a state of preparation, ready for anything that life can throw at you. So you might not be able to relax on a soul level. And this manifested mostly in the life of your grandparents and your parents. And this made life really, really tough because this was woven into your education. Basically, you kind of were forced one way or another to be extremely strong, to be very, very tough, to be resilient. All the examples that you received were about survival, was about self-sufficiency, independence. And this kind of took away your freedom and joy of life because nothing was about the present. Everything was about, for example, future security. But this is just one part of the karma, because I do believe that this is, kind of general. So very many people had their ancestors, their predecessors lived through times exactly like this. And of course, everyone coped in a different way, but it kind of left scars on absolutely everyone, even the nobles, even people who had great wealth and were absolutely fine. But another karmic pattern is about love and partnership, because maybe a female ancestor of yours fell in love with someone who they shouldn't have, in the sense that either their families didn't accept them, or there was a social difference, or customs, traditions, or religion, or stuff like that. And it was like a mini Romeo and Juliet story, because they chose to rebel against the normality of that time. And even though basically their love was fulfilled, their lives became so very challenging in every single aspect that it kind of turned into a deep nightmare for that female ancestor and also her lover. And even though this isn't really important for you to know, as in to know the story, what is more important is that that's why you carried a lot of energy in your family. That's why your parents were maybe not so fortunate in certain things that they wanted to accomplish. Maybe you had divorce in your family. Maybe you had some kind of hardship. So basically your soul was born into this specific family with this specific karma because you wanted to close this cycle once and for all, and it took your energy and your elevated spirit. Because look at the card which follows this Four of Wands, the High Priestess. So that means that you're not just any soul, you're not actually part of that family, you're almost like a totally outsider as a spirit, but because of compassion, because of love, and because somehow you were called into existence. Maybe your mom really prayed, or just her soul needed a strong support, maybe an angelic guidance. That is how you found your way into that family. So this first cycle of your life, regardless of what you did, regardless of your personal choices and what happened in your life, basically the main karmic theme was to close the karma so that the past remains the past, to break the pattern and to heal the family. So if you had kind of hardships, troubles, or if you saw in your own life that you enacted some patterns of your parents, for example, maybe you were drawn into impossible relationships, not just romantically but work-wise, or if you had big injustices in your life where you just didn't have ideal opportunities, you had to make a lot of compromises, you had to support your parents or a single parent emotionally, or maybe you lost a parent, or your parents didn't set a very positive example for you. All of this was for you to fulfill that karmic mission of yours, to cleanse the family karma, to break the pattern, which also meant that you have to co-suffer along with them, just that because you are a much more elevated, you are basically an angelic spirit, if we can call it like that. Through your sacrifices, through your hardships, and through negating the pattern that you should have also enacted in your life, by doing the opposite of what your parents did, by becoming someone else, by healing, by understanding, by choosing to be different, to go against the education that you received, to go against, for example, making sure that you fit in, making sure that you have everything that everyone else has, that you rather choose to do things your way, that you don't get sucked into peer pressure, and most importantly, you find your own way of understanding the world, your worldview, your life philosophies, your own unique take on spirituality. That was what actually broke the pattern, what purified you, what purified your family, and what brought you to the second cycle, the next big theme of your life, where your intuition was extremely powerful. You became like someone totally different. It is almost like you exited a very material, earthly life and discovered something truly unique and amazing and wonderful within yourself. A lot of inner power, a lot of spirit, a lot of faith. It is almost like you became this high priestess. It was almost like something pressed a turn on button on your soul. So you shed off your old skin, you shed off who you used to be, you shed off all your fears, all your insecurities. You found it so easy to understand whatever happened, to forgive, to accept, and you just started to live life from within. You actually became this high priestess. And that was really important for you, because when you were living your old soul mission, like to set the karma straight and help elevate your family, help break the chain of ancestral suffering. Your intuition was also very, very sharp. Your spirit was always with you. You even had guides. As a child, you might have seen so very many beyond the invisible things, but it had to be hidden from you. So it kind of was a very unconscious state. It manifested through your dreams, through your intuition. You had no real control or even understanding over it. You just kind of knew that something was guiding you, something was there, something was full of good intent, but you couldn't really understand it until all of this activated and you became it. This was a moment of a true psychological, spiritual rebirth, and that is when you kind of became your higher self. That is when the bridge between the human being that you were and your higher self was finally fixed. It was finally walkable, if that makes sense. So you could access it anytime you wanted. And this is also your present. Just that in your present, you're extremely strong. You're extremely knowledgeable. You're extremely wise. Maybe you even chose a new life path for yourself, to be a counselor, to be a healer, or you started to learn psychology, you started working with people, you started studying philosophies to see how karma plays out. But this is where your higher self is already basically an omnipresent energy in your life. You can't even say that you're separate from it. In the moments when you actually don't feel it as close, or you don't feel your inner voice as active, are very rare, and those are basically the bad days or the down moments in life, but that is absolutely normal. So let's get to the message, because your higher self, first of all, wants to deeply, deeply apologize for everything that you endured, in the sense that you may have never understood why you were born in that family and why you had to do all of that hard karmic work when it was almost like it didn't ever resonate with you. You always felt that you belonged to like a different family, or maybe not even to this earthly plane. You might have had a lot of deja vu moments. You might have had a lot of signs and all of that. And that is exactly why your higher self apologizes that you have to go through all of this. But you've done it out of compassion and mercy, because your mom's soul just called upon the heavens, the angels, to help her get through this life somehow. And this was the answer, by sending you. And it wasn't punishment, it wasn't anything bad, it wasn't any bad karma from your behalf. It was just like a matter of compatibility, because you had the power to do that. But at the same time, when you finished that cycle, you could just do whatever it is that you wanted to do on this earthly plane. That was the moment when your life, your body, and basically the whole world just belong to you to do as you please. And this is what you're living right now. You might not feel as free, you might not feel as blessed, as powerful, but you actually are. And the good thing is that your higher self wants to let you know that in this second phase of your journey, in this existence, what awaits you is the Nine of Cups. Emotional fulfillment, being so proud and happy with everything that you have in your life. It is the energy of divine gratitude. It's almost like you are an embodiment, a living being, manifestation of gratitude, because of your deep understanding and because your angelic nature can come through without any psychological or unconscious restrictions, and your power is growing and growing and growing, and you're becoming extremely magnetic to the frequencies that you embody, and that is of course gratitude, that is love, that is understanding. And where your journey is taking you is that justice reverse card, as in to be able to live the total opposite of what you had in the first cycle of your life. It is basically true divine justice. It doesn't matter how much earthly justice has failed you. It doesn't even matter that karma failed you, because this is where, due to this portal opening inside of you, you being able to embody your higher self in almost an unbound state, that means that you are already living for the divine, through the divine, and with the divine, if this makes sense to you. And also, this is where this justice reverse means that because in this first cycle of your life, you had so much self-sacrifice, you had so much sharing with others, you had so much duties to do with compassion and solidarity and understanding and giving others much more than they deserve, because ultimately that heals. In the second phase, the universe is going to stop others from being able to use you. To translate this, well, you will embody such high frequencies that people basically who have a lot of wounds, who are vulnerable, who have their own karmic work to do, won't be able to attract you in their lives. And this is one of the divine gifts for you. You can only attract, and other people can only attract you, who embody an already healed state. So this means that you will have your peace, you will have your serenity, and you will be disconnected from drama. Even though you are a very helpful and gentle person, and as I said, maybe you have already chosen a path for yourself where you perhaps heal others, counsel others, understand others, offer inspiration or sympathy. That is absolutely fine, but your beneficiaries, so to speak, will not be able or allowed to get very personal with you. So that basically stops the drama, that stops you being able to absorb their negative energies. So basically it is where the universe will protect your purity, your state of bliss and happiness, like a ferocious lion. You will not be able to give more than is fair. You will not be able to sacrifice yourself. You will have a lot of lessons when not to help, when not to go over the limit. And if right now in your life you're getting a little bit burned, as in where the universe is teaching you that the road to hell is paved with good intentions, when you offer, a little bit of help and people just bite off your arm, it is not really karmic. It is just the universe teaching you that you need to preserve that which you worked for, and you cannot share your divine gifts with anyone who doesn't truly resonate with you and what you represent. And if you are a female, this high priestess reverse can also represent that the moment when you became a mother yourself, that was the moment of your true awakening. That was the moment when your rebirth started, because by giving birth to your child, you kind of gave birth to a totally new life for yourself. That was the moment when you made your being whole. That was the moment when you became actually your higher self, when you reached true purity. And if you haven't given birth to a child yet, for example, if you're not in that stage of your life, because this is a general reading, so the timing will be different, and even the setup will be different for different people. But when you get to that stage where you, for example, become pregnant or you are having a child, that will be a moment of miracles. That will be a moment when basically You will meet the divine almost face to face. That moment will be so powerful that it is beyond your imagination. And of course, for those who are already moms, as you see your child grow and as your child, or of course children, because some people are not gonna have just one child. This is a very strong feminine and maternal energy here. So as your children grow, as your children evolve, it is almost like your soul will just overflow with power, overflow with divine energies, nurturing yourself, your whole family, and of course your children. And it is gonna be your children or a child who are going to have amazing destinies. So you kind of will know that from the very first second as they start to learn and grow and perhaps start school, etc. It will become so very obvious to you that they're just amazing, that they are meant to do big things in this world. So you can imagine how truly happy you're gonna feel. And of course, this is perfectly valid even if you are a male, because for you, having your family and being in a divine union with a partner who is basically the perfect mother for your children, that will lead you to the same path. And it is even true for those who are in the same-sex relationship, where you might just meet your soulmate, you might meet that very special person who can see you for who you are, who can understand you like no one else. And either you adopt children, but it can also represent not a living, breathing child, but something that you do together. Something which is even like a project, or buying a home, or a creative expression, anything that basically represents the bridge between both of your spiritual journeys, because there will be a big obvious reason why you two will meet each other in this life and form this union. So basically, it doesn't really matter if you're female or a male or same sex or whatever, because you are meant to create something. And for some, that is a living, breathing organism, a child to host a spirit, while for others it might be something which has to do with a great purpose. But either way, the future that awaits you and this life mission in the next cycle is this 9 of Cups. So living your dream, living your true nature undisturbed by anyone. And this means a kind of isolation from society, from the rest of the world, but not in a bad sense, but rather in a divinely protected sense. This is where the world and whatever is going on in the world, society, etc., will simply not be part of your lives, of anything that has to do with you. And what you're doing right now, in this very moment of your existence, is to learn and to accept that being separate from the world, being separate from society, is not selfish, it is not anything negative, but it is pure bliss, and you deserve it so very much. Your happiness, your inner strength wells up from inside, so why would it be selfish? You did this to yourself. And the justice reversed, everyone gets what they deserve, everyone will reap what they sow. So that is what you've done, that is what you're gonna get, and that is divine justice. And now the next set of cards is messages from your shadow self. Now your shadow self, through this card of scarcity, would like to tell you that it wasn't really able to do its job in the first cycle of your life, because one of the biggest jobs and roles of the shadow self is to protect you, in the sense that when someone hits you, you hit back. When someone bites you, you bite back even harder. When someone challenges your self-worth, you speak your mind. It is basically the warrior energy which just couldn't really manifest, it just couldn't really play out in a very healthy way due to that mission, to the family karma that you were trying to break. So because it was so repressed and it wasn't able to basically fight back, it became a little bit toxic and poisonous to yourself. So every time you had to swallow your pride, every time you had to accept last place even though you deserved more than that, every time you had to basically all work and no play, well, that left a very strong imprint on you, and it poisoned you little by little. And even though there were moments when it was really tough, like depression, like really low self-worth, like feeling absolutely abandoned, lonely, like an alien, still it has a very strong purpose because it turned you into the officer. It made you immune to poison. It made you extremely tough. It helped you build up a very strong shell which was impenetrable whenever you wanted it to be impenetrable. So the fact that you have this ability to make your heart ice cold, to make your heart almost invisible at command, is a very, very strong self-defense mechanism. So it's not really a bad thing at all. And last but not least, through this gift card, your shadow self would like to tell you that whenever that moment in your life, in your destiny, when you were reborn, so to speak, when you shed off your old skin, occurred, it also affected your shadow self, which became like a big child. It wants to play, it wants to have fun, it wants to spend a lot of time with you. It wants to explore nature. It just wants to physically feel alive and happy. And since the shadow self basically has full access or full vision of your unconscious, where every programming and even the destiny itself is written into, it always knew that you would have this divine gift of the Nine of Cups. So it was never even worried one single second, because it always knew that its time would come when it can play, when it can be free, when it can just do whatever it wants without drama, without challenges. You know, it is basically the curiosity of the inner child, and it's gonna be satisfied in the second part, second phase, second cycle of your life. The shadow self will be like a true co-pilot on the same position. It has nothing to worry about. It is actually quite peaceful, quite gentle, not the average aggressive inner demon, but rather the inner adolescent who doesn't take anything seriously and can make a joke or irony about everything and everyone. So its message is to not feel guilty and just allow yourself to be not so serious, not so grounded, to have fun, to do all the silly things, and to enjoy the humor and the sense of irony of the universe, because the universe itself can also be at times a big joker, and you shouldn't take these very funny, coincidental moments in your life very seriously, but laugh with the universe, not feel offended. So basically this concludes what the cards have to say for those of you who were drawn to the first lantern. Hello everyone who was drawn to the second lantern. As you can see, there are two spreads here. The first spread is message from your higher self, and the second spread is message from your shadow. So first of all, your higher self, your superconscious, speaks to us through the Justice reversed, the Hangman reversed, King of Swords and the Ace of Coins reversed. Now, the Justice reversed is not the most favorable card because it represents that you had a lot of limitations and restrictions in your life, materially, emotionally, psychologically, socially, and it kind of made you feel that this earthly existence, that life is so very unfair for so very many different reasons. There were times when you actually felt that the divine is against you, that your destiny, that spirit, that everything that is holy and sacred is personally against you and your journey, your desires, your plans, your dreams, because so very many things in your life just didn't work out the way you planned, the way you expected. Many times you felt misguided. Many times you felt that you were set on certain paths intentionally so that you fail. And this kind of led you to embodying this hangman reverse energy, which is the rebel, which is the freedom fighter energy, of course, from a spiritual perspective. And combined with this King of Swords, well, it without a shadow of a doubt represents that you are someone with a very, very impressive IQ. Your mind, your intellect is almost quantic, it is almost infinite, and this goes back even to childhood, when let's say the first memories of your consciousness, when you were a conscious being in this existence, you immediately asked questions which defied the condition of an innocent child. You always had this very, very strong curiosity about you of how things work, what is life, what is existence, why are you here? And more importantly, and this is also part of your childhood, sometimes you felt that perhaps this life, perhaps everything in your life is maybe just a dream, it is maybe just an illusion. And maybe this hangman reverse also represents that from a certain perspective, you kind of rebelled against certain religious ideologies and dogmas, kind of found it impossible to believe that things are set in stone, that the divine is this cruel sovereign ruler who demands absolute loyalty. You kind of refuse to believe in the concept of sin. And naturally, this also means that you really, really researched into science, into the highest philosophies. But don't get me wrong, there was a part of you which researched science as the empirical knowledge, but you took it a step further, where it went almost into science fiction, and much to your surprise, certain ideas and philosophies and basically how you figured things out when you were very young, like a teenager, when you were just daydreaming, when you were just, with yourself thinking about stuff, actually became science fact. Maybe you read your own theories in science articles and quantum physics articles, and this really, really shocked you, because how is it possible that you knew all of those theories without really even having the necessary base scientific knowledge to even conceive them, to understand them? And basically this made your life way more unfair, because you kind of knew and saw and experienced how truly powerful your mind is. You could figure out like absolutely everything that you wanted. It was almost like you asked a question and somehow you found the answers. Sometimes totally on your own, without a book, without internet, without, for example, just taking a shower, and you just found the answers as an epiphany. So you cannot deny this part of your personal power. And yet, why was your material life so very unfair? And you were kind of sometimes angry at your higher self of why isn't it giving you answers? Why isn't it giving you guidance? Why isn't it connecting you to all those, let's say, consciousnesses who you knew that existed somewhere out there? Maybe you were someone who was deeply fascinated by extraterrestrial intelligence, by other worldly beings, etc. So you have had all these questions, why? And, a lot of your life felt like a huge battle with yourself. A huge battle with your own intelligence. A huge battle with your higher self, because you demanded to know, you demanded to be able to manifest, you demanded to be able to access that which you knew was rightfully yours. But you had to fall. You had to have a major mental breakdown, or maybe your whole life just crashed in on itself, like, when a star kind of collapses and becomes a black hole. So there was definitely a moment of the dark night of the soul in your life, and perhaps not even that long ago, perhaps 3 years ago, or perhaps with this hangman reversed, you're living that right now, but the very, 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 very final stages, and you are getting all the answers that you seek, just that your dark night of the soul was really wild, because it was almost like an unbelievable either misfortune or like being trapped between realities, because you lost all your friends, all your social connections, maybe your job, your livelihood, as in you were truly isolated, like a hermit crab in its shell. And it wasn't that much due to your choice, it was just like a mysterious force doing all these random, coincidental bad things in your life. It was almost like certain things are almost impossible and improbable, but in a bad way. So, let me just give you an example. You are a super intelligent and educated person, and you applied for an average job, and there was no way you couldn't get it. It was like impossible, and you didn't get it. Or let's just say there was something simple where everyone succeeded 100%, it was impossible to fail, and you were that 0.01% person who failed. And this defied all sense of logic, and you just knew that something big was happening, and it was happening to you personally. And it kind of wasn't even that bad, because you might have always desired to see for yourself, to experience for yourself the impossible, even if not in the most positive or delightful sense, but that which defies physical reality still provides the experience that it's you actually living the impossible. And that was when the bridge between you and your higher self was truly opened, and not just from an intellectual, mental way, not just through your thoughts, not just through your thought processes, not just through your telepathy or your epiphanies, but also emotionally. And it was that emotional factor that you were truly missing from your life. And basically, that gave your spirituality and your journey a totally new dimension. So, long story short, your higher self is actually telling you that you are so very powerful. I'm not sure who and what you are, but if life itself, if the divine, if Mother Nature would actually allow you to use your power, you could distort reality. You could really, really hurt everyone in your life, everyone you ever loved, without even wanting it, knowing it, desiring that. Because, reality is built through quantum strings and interconnectedness. And, when you blow, when you just pump all your power, that would be catastrophic. So even if it broke the divine's and the universe's heart, it had to restrict you, it had to stop you, it had to basically put you on a leash because you would hurt yourself even without desiring that, because you had to reach this spiritual and emotional maturity not to want to change the world, not to want to change anything, as in just to trust. Trust in the sense that you are not allowed to use your full extent of your powers ever in this existence, because you would produce something catastrophic. And all of those bad things in your life reflected just how powerful you are, just of how strong manifester you are. And also, it doesn't matter what a strong being you are, your role in this life is to be just a messenger, the King of Swords, to be a telepath, to just deliver a message and not change it, not save the world, not basically use your full capacity, because that is not what you agreed on. You agreed to be the messenger, you agreed to be the channeler, and you're just starting to realize that, because the Hangman reverse represents, Odin when he finally tapped into all of his wisdom. It represents that he was suspended and refused to move. Or let's say the Buddha under the tree. He just stood there until he figured stuff out, and that is exactly what you have done. Like it or not, you refuse to shift out from your shell, from your blockages, from your everlasting nightmare until you figure it out. And this is the conclusion. You're that very powerful that you may not use the full capacity of what you are, who you are. You have to be satisfied just by being a messenger. And as long as you accept, as long as you make peace with this, perhaps even in a millisecond, your life will change and it will become what it has always should have been, where you're supported and where everything in life is infinitely easy for you. Ace of Coins reversed. Even matter, even money, even finances, everything, because you're doing your job, you're being the messenger. And the messenger has to be focused on delivering the message and basically opening yourself to the quantum forces to work through your mind. So that means that perhaps having a job, having 10 trillion friends, being the king of your social circle is not part of your life. So the universe and everything in existence has to compensate you for that, and it has to deliver stuff on a silver tray, and all you have to do is say, yes, I accept and I deserve it because I am doing this role. So for you, it's a little bit complicated because you are not one of the average person whose different layers of consciousness, the selves, are separate. You basically, with your dark night of the soul, almost erased your human self. So you are your higher self. You are not anything or anyone else. They say that education and our life experiences form the conditioned self. Well, for you it was a little bit difficult to form you because you never believed one word of your education. Yes, you might have complied and you might have done what was necessary, but you never believed one word. Neither what your parents told you, neither what your teachers told you. You kind of always knew deep inside of you. So basically, I do believe that right now you're in that phase where you're exiting that energetic, that quantum prison, because you accepted responsibility, you accepted the truth about yourself, and you accepted not to use your power. You became peaceful, the rebellious period ended, you kind of forgave the past, that your life wasn't actually unfair, because everything that you perceived as unfair was necessary, because otherwise you would have kind of changed the course of reality and fate even without wanting it. So you accepted that all the limitations and all the reverse, the mirror stuff where you asked for something and got the total opposite wasn't really unfair. It was the only way to teach you and awaken you to who you truly are. Now, the shadow self, we have the Four of Cups, Queen of Swords, and the Five of Wands reversed. Now, this Four of Cups represents a certain emotional duality where you love being alone, you love sacred solitude, you love spending time with yourself, you love being in your thoughts, and at the same time, your emotions, especially after this dark night of the soul, became so very mature, they became so very fertile, that when you find love in yourself for anything, anyone, basically the power of love, it is so very strong that it kind of overwhelms you. It's almost like a drug. It's almost like a state of bliss where you can just emotionally connect to the divine heart, the very core of the universe or even multiverse, and perceive love as basically the glue which holds together realities and all things. And we're talking about love and also your shadow, and you might ask yourself, well, how does this even make sense? Well, you see, the reason I said that this Four of Cups represents a duality, because you love sacred solitude so much, because it kind of feeds you, it makes you whole, it makes you feel alive, or it gives you a perception of your own existence which you cannot perceive or feel or process in any other way. So if, let's say, anyone is in your company or in your presence, you disconnect from this state, and when you're disconnected, it hurts you. But at the same time, you long for company, you long for someone to share this with. But you have never ever found a living human being who you can feel yourself in its presence or company, and your shadow is kind of always fighting this sense of longing, this strong desire, exactly to protect you from feeling lonely, to protect you from that Queen of Swords, your own critical mind, when your mind sometimes tries to tell you that you're crazy, that you're insane, that you might belong to the lunatic asylum. When this inner Queen of Swords criticizes you, this is all your doubts, this is all your insecurities, mentally and spiritually even. For example, why can't you manifest this? Why can't you basically, I don't even know, contact in a very, very direct manner, as in almost literally other consciousnesses? Why can't you just shift or phase out of your conditioning? Why can't you just attract another being in your life who can understand you and who you can emotionally connect with? But that Queen of Swords is just like a mental mechanism strongly imprinted into all of us through school, through education, through having to respect social norms and standards. So that is such an inferior energy. It is just a command line which your shadow is trying so very hard to eliminate from your life. And sometimes you might mistake the Queen of Swords with your shadow, because actually that is what for normal people the shadow is, but not for you. But through this Five of Wands reversed, the tarot card of competition, of fighting, of overcoming challenges, a very Martian energy, your shadow is trying to suggest to you, it is trying to tell you to make its job easier by simply not wanting to prove anything to yourself anymore, to stop setting challenges, to stop setting temptations in your own path, because you have this super intelligent quantum mind. So who are you proving things to? You must stop desiring more proof. You must stop desiring more evidence, more situations which test you, more situations that ultimately have to reflect who you truly are. For example, if I'm truly like this or that, then I can accomplish this or that. That is your own worst enemy, and your shadow is so very fed up and tired of trying its hardest to scream at you to stop challenging yourself, to stop drawing into your life and existence more blockages through this hair-splitting attitude. Because ultimately, if you ever want to experience the Four of Cups energy, as in another living, breathing human flesh being to understand you and to be able to share a emotional connection with, it will only enter your life once you stop this seeking more proof and start just having more faith. Of course, not blind faith, but if you're emotionally so very complete, then what purpose does all that proof, all those situations that you're attracting in your life serve you? It just makes it that much harder for you. And also, if you're still in the last stages of that dark night of the soul, that is your ticket out to stop the research, to stop being obsessed by finding certain answers and proofs and being able to understand certain elements, because you already saw and experienced so much, quite physically even, and you not even once were able to control it. It never happened when you wanted it to happen, but it still happened. So that should actually have taught you the biggest lesson that you need to learn. So that is the key out, and that is what you're searching, and that will provide the Ace of Coins reversed for you. The easy, the opposite, as in when all your needs, material, physical, whatever, just manifest on autopilot. So for you personally, it's not really your higher self which is in disadvantage, but your shadow. Your shadow is almost exasperated, desperate to somehow deliver its message to you. But either way, you just know that you're on the right path. You just know that whatever your life story is gonna be from this moment onward, it will be out of this world. So I don't believe my powers and any tarot cards can predict the miracles or mysteries that you're gonna experience, so enjoy. Hi there, everyone who chose the third lantern. The top cards represent the message from your higher self, and the bottom cards represent the message from your shadow self. So your higher self is speaking through the Six of Coins reversed, the Emperor reversed, the Five of Wands reversed, and the Nine of Swords reversed. That's a lot of reversed energy. But that is not a bad thing, because first of all of these cards are reversed because the worst of the worst is over and it belongs to the past. Now this Six of Coins reversed can represent a number of different things, but what is the same for everyone is that you were born with this spirit of generosity, spirit of creativity. You have been born in this existence to give, to offer either your creation, either your advice, either to make the world a more beautiful place, either to be a muse for someone. It is a very, very artistic energy, regardless of how that art plays out for you. Compassion, mercy, understanding, generosity, and simply the beauty of sharing, the beauty of being able to do something for another being, regardless if that is a human being, an animal, nature, or anything included in here. That was always part of your journey, of your soul, and all of your previous existences. It is simply part of who you are. It is your very essence. And speaking about past lives, well, in your past existences, you were extremely powerful, you were extremely successful, and you were a person who truly helped a lot of people, who was a savior for many people. And the Six of Coins is very special because it means sharing something that you have and not necessarily self-sacrificial karma. So it means that you were so strong that you could be there for other people. It was your strength which radiated, regardless what that strength means, generosity or anything. You were almost like a Hercules, a hero of the day, who through their strength, through their wittiness, whatever virtue you embodied, you saved the day both for yourself and for a lot of other people. And why is this very, very important? Well, it's because that history of so many lifetimes was deeply imprinted into your soul, and naturally, you were born with the same tendencies in this life, but also with the expectation that you have the power to do anything, you have the power to overcome anything. When you believe strongly in an ideal, the whole universe will conspire in your favor. When you take risks for very noble goals, it has to have a happy ending. So these were all soul level imprints and expectations that you brought in this life with you, but this is one of your lives, or this is one of your stages of evolution as a soul when the game is put on extra difficulty. And of course you agreed to this and you needed this as a soul, so this has nothing to do with the human being that you are. It was something that you agreed to and something that you kind of arranged for yourself before you were born. So which means you have the strength, you have the skill, you have the ideal, you have the belief, you have the pure heart, but in your younger years everything played out in the opposite way, when yes, you gave, you did save a lot of people or helped a lot of people or improved the lives of people. May they be your parents, may they be your grandparents, may they have to do anything with your work, profession, career, friends, karmic partnerships and relationships. So you were always the giver, you were always the helper, you were always the support. They leaned on you, you did everything what they asked you to do. And either you got nothing in return, or you got a lot of pain, disappointment, heartache, and cruelty in return. And this was something that profoundly upset you and shocked you. But there was nothing your higher self could do about this, because as I said, before you were born, you set the difficulty level on next to impossible. Because the biggest, let's say, karmic challenge here is, can you still be a hero? Can you still be the savior? Can you still be the one who makes everything okay when you don't get the same in return? Because in your past lives, yes, you did all those big things, but you were also celebrated, loved, etc. So, the triumphant hero. You got a lot of love energy in return. So you were even someone who might have been commemorated. You might have even statues about a past self of yours existing in this life as a token of gratitude. But in this life, unfortunately, you started as nothing in return, or actually the opposite in return. And it was so hard. It was so confusing. And this Emperor in reverse means two very important things. Well, on one hand, either your father or parental figure kind of worked against you. Either he was missing from your life, or he was very cruel and unforgiving with other people, maybe even with you. Or maybe he was cruel with your mother or other family members. And that should have kind of really set you back. It should have stopped you where you are in your tracks. It should have crippled you for life. It should have left such a massive trauma which would be impossible to overcome. And it should have, the Five of Wands reversed, basically stopped you from living your dream, from doing anything, from helping others, from believing in solidarity, compassion, mercy. It should have made you feel so worthless that you should have abandoned your arts, your beauty, whatever creative energies you embody, because, you're not just a worker. The Six of Coins means that you do have some kind of creative talent. You're really good at something. You have a skill, or you know how to do something really special, and you're one of the best in the world, believe it or not. You have that potential, but of course, because the karmic difficulty that you set for yourself, you were anonymous. You didn't get the recognition, the opportunities, the chances. And even though, look at this Nine of Swords, depression, cruelty, sometimes even suicidal tendencies, total heartbreak, starting from scratch, zero self-worth. So you had so many moments of that. And the fact that a paternal figure or someone in your family, maybe a teacher or your best friend, or maybe your bad, cruel life partner, shattered you, added to this quite a lot. Well, all of these cards are reversed, so it wasn't enough to stop you. No matter what happened to you, it just wasn't enough. Somehow you went through the hardship without totally shattering your faith. Of course, you had a lot of lessons and readjustments. You had to learn how much to give or how much to allow other people, to say no, to set limits, to fight back, sometimes to shut the door forever. Of course, that doesn't mean not forgiving or understanding, but it means that in certain cases and relationships, let's say friendships or whatever, you had to erase that person from your mind, from your soul. So no turning back. And they might have begged you, they might have cried or whatever, but you just had to do what you had to do. And yet, none of this defeated you. And your higher self, well, believe it or not, it is celebrating. It is, in symbolically understand, nirvana. It is beyond happy and pleased. No matter what you think right now, no matter how you feel right now, your higher self is kind of connected to the divine pattern, so it can see everything that your human self could not perceive, understand, or foresee as in the future. Even if you have the strongest intuition, even if you know divination, your higher self can still tap into things which you cannot. So it knows that not only have you managed to pull through this life at extra hard difficulty, because Earth is like a big school. We come here to learn and ultimately prove ourselves. So you kind of not only passed the exams and the test and proved yourself, but you excelled so very much that, believe it or not, reincarnation is gonna be optional for you. It is almost like, from a soul level perspective, you hit the jackpot. So basically what comes next is a very, very symbolic karmic event in your life, something big but singular, which symbolically will represent your diploma, your graduation. If you have some kind of talent or artistic expression or whatever that Six of Coins symbolizes for you, then it will definitely mean the big, big opportunity that always eluded you. If you have been someone who's done a lot of work for others but never got anything in return, well, then it means that you're gonna get more than you could possibly imagine. And another big blessing that is coming for you, well, this Emperor reversed. From a human perspective, your father figure, or maybe any parent, it can be any parent who was dominant, was not the best, was not a good example, but you also have the divine source as a parent, and right now it is gonna be stepping up in your life, where it will start handing you things on a silver tray, exactly what your human parent could never ever do for you. And the timing is also very relevant, because this Nine of Swords reversed can represent that you lived this very strong depressive state when the rest of the world, when outer reality was full of prosperity, love, harmony, when so many other peoples were successful and living their dreams. But it is when the world, outer reality, is living its worst nightmare, is when you're gonna live your dreams. So basically, the worse it gets globally, regardless in which sense, materially, the COVID situation, war, or anything that basically influences the well-being of the human species, the worse it gets globally, the better it gets for you. And chances are that that big karmic moment when you hit the breakthrough is going to coincide with something really bad that is going to happen in the world, like a calamity or something like that. And since we are living the COVID nightmare, it's going to be sometime soon, before everything gets better globally. So your higher self is already celebrating this. Your higher self is simply ecstatic. And you might be able to feel this, to perceive this, by sometimes just, how should I even say, sensing a strange state of bliss. Or sometimes feeling like you're seeing or experiencing the future, your future, which is full of joy, which is full of love, of a deep, deep happiness and appreciation. So even as we speak, you're healing, you're regenerating, you're getting stronger and stronger and stronger. You are learning the big, big, big lessons of what self-love means, of what self-appreciation means. You are learning how to invest in yourself and believe in your value, in your worth, in everything that you're doing, and the uniqueness of your talents and your skills. So you're learning to appreciate all of that. You're learning that basically from an inner perspective, you're a multi-million, you're one of the richest people in the world because of your inner world, because of your attitude towards life, because of your skills and talents. So basically, none of the past actually is alive inside of you anymore. It's gone. It's just a memory. Even if you're a little bit stuck in the present moment, even if you're a little bit even disconnected from your higher self, it's not really a bad thing. Your higher self is just celebrating. It's even allowing you to feel a little bit lost on purpose, because it kind of knows that if something really, really good and positive comes out of the blue and you're not expecting and not prepared for it, it's gonna feel that much more special. And that is what it wants to gift you with for overcoming everything on extra hard difficulty. And now your shadow self, we have the Eight of Cups, the Moon, and the Ace of Swords. Now the Eight of Cups represents that your shadow self was really, really active in your past because it had to attract all of those people who used you, all of those people who gave you a hard time, who shattered your self-worth, etc. And it wasn't like bad intended or evil or anything like that, but it was part of the equation. It was part of the alchemical recipe. If you want a lot of wealth, if you want to be able to keep that wealth, if you don't want the power, the good times, the successes to destroy you, like look at how many artists had everything going for them and they committed suicide, they had mental health problems, they had really, really dark fates, or they had cancer, whatever. If you didn't want to be part of that, well, that is why your shadow was so harsh on you. It worked overtime to prevent that, and the only way it could prevent it was the moon, by responsibilizing you. You know, they say that, for example, the legend of the goddess Ishtar, goddess of love, or the story of Christ, you know, they had to descend into the depths of hell before they could ascend and reach their moments of glory. So you had to see yourself in the most vulnerable and weak states and positions socially and in any sense, so that when the good time comes, you can appreciate it that much more. You can live in a state of gratitude. You can trust yourself. You can trust your karma. You can trust that you had so many obstacles and challenges that there will be no reason why your future has to be full of those. And of course, the wisdom, the diligence, and the emotional maturity not to make certain mistakes, not to fall into temptation, illusion, just to live your life, just to live your story, just to create, just to express your skills and talents without obligation. And you know, this Eight of Cups is also very suggestive, because there will be moments when you just don't want to do anything. There will be moments when you decide that this year I'm not gonna work, I'm not gonna do anything, I'm gonna be on holiday for as long as I feel like. I'm gonna, Eight of Cups, travel, maybe go and live on a boat on the sea, or at the seaside. All of this is part of your journey. Or the moon, maybe you will have a year or maybe more years when you want to reconnect with nature and you just abandon a busy modern life and just go back to simplicity, because that is what will make you happy. And if you have everything in your life you need to be able to do this comfortably, easily, well, imagine the adventures that you're gonna have. Being artistic or creative is one thing, but when you draw inspiration from every single gesture of everything that ever happens to you in life, then imagine the happiness. And ultimately, the message of your shadow self is the same as the higher self. Look at this Ace of Swords. That is the guaranteed breakthrough. But look at the two snakes wrapped around the sword. One is the higher self, one is the shadow self. They're sitting together and celebrating. They're taking it easy. They're already enjoying your future, because the higher self can see the divine patterns, but the shadow self knows the unconscious programming, and they are a perfect match. So both of them are quite happy with the result, with the outcome, with the life that you have created for yourself. And it is the same story. The reason why it may be a little bit quiet right now, the reason why there's not too much spiritual activity or artistic activity, inspiration, or dreams and fantasies and whatever, is because you have your soul, your spirit has planned this surprise for you. The Ace of Swords, the ultimate truth, the breakthrough, when the divine will enters your physical life. Well, this concludes your reading. I do hope that you enjoyed it and you found it useful. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for all the likes and shares and absolutely beautiful comments. If you'd like to support my channel and help me keep it up in the future, you can donate in the PayPal link in the description below. Thank you again. Wish everyone a lot of blessings, abundance, prosperity, and nothing but love. Until next time, bye for now.